Yes, yes, yes. What is up? What is up, MCR family? Another semi-weekly edition of the show, semi-daily edition of the show, live on YouTube, podcast form on all podcast distributors. You guys know where to find us. Come on, links below if you don't know where to find us on podcast form. I'm writing solo dolo today. I promised you guys that if I couldn't get anyone on the show to talk about UFC 253, I was going to go solo dolo. I was going to promise the 5 of you that care about my opinions about MMA that I would give you guys some content. So I'm here. UFC 253 went down over the weekend. Israel Adesanya versus Paulo Costa. Oh, man, it was dominant. A lot to get into, at least in terms of this fight, what it means for Izzy, possible future long-term goals for him, or maybe achievements he could achieve, for lack of a better term. A lot to get into on today's show. I'm not going to dive into the card like in depth, to be honest. I just feel like, I'm not the guy to go into even Kai Kara France and dissect what his loss means and like that. Sorry, not that guy. UK Robs, and I can't wait for Gary's take on this. Gary's not going to be here. I didn't tell anyone about the show, at least in terms of the MCR crew, because you guys don't watch MMA except for Foo, and he's always busy. So yeah, solo dolo. Also, just for sort of a housekeeping point, I will be live later today with Foogatti, not talking combat sports, though, talking politics. I know everyone's favorite subject matter. We're going to be live tonight for the first presidential debates. You guys can watch it with us. Definitely going to be some heavy drinking on the show because, oh my fucking God, that's going to be hell. But digressing, guys. Also, just to remind everyone, like I mentioned, UK Rob in the live chat, and go subscribe to his new channel, UK Rob Boxing, as well. I wonder, because I keep searching for UK Rob Boxing, watch. I wonder, because it doesn't, your channel doesn't pull up, Rob. I wonder if I just leave out that space, does it show up? Oh, it does. It does. See, if you want to find his channel, first off, I will definitely put a link in the description below, but also just type in UK Rob Boxing and you will find it. But let's get back to the fights, because I know that's what you guys care about. Israel Adesanya, like I said, dominated Paulo Costa in every conceivable fashion. I mean, this fight was so utterly dominant that I don't remember Costa even landing a punch, to be quite honest. I cannot, from my recollection of Saturday night, remember if he landed a combination ever, to be quite honest. There were some moments where he would press Izzy to the cage, but Izzy would actually be the one throwing back more in terms of countering and slipping off the side door and sort of reestablishing distance. And as something Luke Thomas has mentioned time and time again, that Israel Adesanya's feints, his sort of IQ when it comes to striking, is just unparalleled. Honestly speaking, Paulo Costa is a decent MMA boxer in the sense that he throws good combinations, works off the jab when he does. He definitely lands a lot of body work, which is a little bit atypical to MMA striking, to be quite honest. I mean, it's not like Paulo Costa is a infantile striker. He's a pretty decent striker, especially in regards to MMA. Maybe even one above average striker in MMA, to be quite honest, especially with his body work. But he's a guy that honestly we've never seen cut off the cage in any significant way, or at least against a significant striker. We've never seen him have to battle sort of the range battle, deal with a guy that wants to be on the outside, that can be on the outside, and you have to negate that real estate. You have to get closer to him. We've never seen Costa really have to do that. Romero's a guy that's not really gonna be elusive in there. I thought Romero had decent head movement when he fought Costa, but it wasn't like Romero was laterally moving around the cage at will. He just wasn't doing that. Daniel Edwards in the chat saying Costa had an injury allegedly. Yeah, I don't believe that. I'll be honest. I think that's a lot of bullshit. I think Costa went in there and then realized, oh shit, I have to figure out a way to traverse this range deficiency I have, and I can't do it. I don't have the IQ. I don't have the striking IQ to do it. I think that was pretty obvious from quite early that Costa just didn't know how to do it. He didn't know how to truly jab and move off the center line, create angles as you press forward. For those that are, boxing fans, think about like how Jared Hurd was able to deal with, how Julian Williams was able to deal with Jared Hurd. Traverse the range, get her under the jab, create angles by moving side and, laterally within the pocket and create openings for shots, right? Jose Ramirez did that with Maurice Hooker quite well. Like we've seen people do this, maybe not so much in MMA, because I think that's a fine art of boxing that has yet to be really adapted into MMA. You've seen maybe people like Volkanovski do that to a degree, or Henry Cejudo, but it's not common. Like this is not a tactic or strategy or methodology that is really implemented both in MMA gyms and obviously within MMA fights. And it was, again, apparent very early that Costa was just stuck. He was stuck right there in, during the headlight status, right in front of Izzy. And instead of, cutting off the cage, instead of slipping off the center line, working the jab to the body instead of up top, he was stuck. He kept trying to follow Izzy as he was turning him. And if you're following somebody like that, you're going to get chewed up with counters. And Izzy, obviously, in terms of the leg kicks, started early and often, and that debilitated Costa quite quickly because Costa didn't check the leg kicks. He didn't deal with that. Again, Israel Adesanya fought a near, if not perfect, fight on Saturday night. This is one of those performances, a little bit like the Whitaker fight, even like to a lesser degree, like Derek Brunson, obviously, where we thought going into it, there was going to be some level of challenge here for Israel Adesanya, and yet he didn't face any. It was easy. The level of dominance in those three fights, in particular, fights that I think a lot of people, again, had doubts going into it for different reasons. Derek Brunson was the first decent wrestler that Izzy faced in MMA. People were concerned about that. What happened? Izzy defended 2 or 3 takedowns effortlessly and knocked him out, like in the first or second round. Obviously, with Robert Whitaker, we thought Whitaker may be able to deal with the striking and contend with him there from a technical perspective. He didn't. We thought Costa was going to be able to bully Izzy in a way that Romero couldn't because Romero was too inactive. He didn't. I mean, it was like 92 Aku says in the chat, a masterclass. It was. I mean, if you want to know how to deal with a pressure fighter that you're a little bit better at, your lateral movement's a little bit better, you have sort of the intangibles of reach and height on your side, maybe even speed as well. How do you accent those advantages into a dominant victory? Watch Israel Adesanya versus Paulo Costa. Like, it was, again, masterclass, as Aku said in the chat. Now, sort of dovetail from that for a second. Maybe I'll get back to Costa and what I think about him and what's next for him. But in terms of Izzy, clearly, he is now in the pound for pound discussion, right? When we talk about John Jones, when we talk about Khabib, and that's 1A or 1B, depending what you think, in my opinion. And I'm okay with anyone picking John Jones or Khabib at number 1. I probably will say that, like, if we count Henry Cejudo still as active, even though he technically isn't, he's right behind those two. I saw that, I think it was the UFC's pound for pound rankings put Stipe above Israel Adesanya. I wouldn't do that, to be honest. I would probably put Izzy, his level of dominance, his resume as well is arguably better than Stipe's. So I would probably put, again, if we count Henry Cejudo in the mix, I would probably put Izzy at 4 behind Cejudo. Cejudo's on the mix. Izzy is at 3, right? Like, he's right behind Khabib and John Jones. And John Jones, as I think a lot of people have been mentioning and been talking about in the community, he has not looked like the pound for pound talent per se in his last few fights. He's had very close contentious decisions for a while now. And I think a lot of people are viewing John Jones as like a matter of time before he takes his first real loss. And I think at heavyweight that will happen, to be quite honest. Khabib, I mean, to be honest, I think within 12 months, the conversation is going to be purely Khabib or Izzy as the pound for pound great right now. Like, maybe Usman slips in there if he just keeps steamrolling the deep welterweight division. But honestly, it's Izzy and Khabib in terms of the level of dominance. And their level of dominance is so antithetical to each other, right? Like Khabib is such a dominant grappler, dominant wrestler. He smothers you with this pressure. Izzy is a guy he's floating on air, right? He's dancing around, he's beating you to the punch, and just with pinpoint accuracy and technique, I should say, he just obliterates people. He really does. The perception of Israel Adesanya, I think, has gone from, man, this guy's gonna be the next big thing, to, oh my God, he is the thing now, right? Like he is the guy now to some degree. And it feels like after Saturday night that switch happened. Where like he could be to now, oh, he is. He's now in that mix in a way that he kind of needed to prove a little bit. And maybe the Romero fight kind of would be that to a degree, but the fight was boring. And then Costa obviously was that. I mean, he was the test that a lot of people wanted him to face, and passed with flying fucking colors. It's amazing. And also shout out to him beating a Bolsonaro supporter. Always will support that. My quick thoughts on the controversy that's come out of the fight, because Izzy, after the finish, like pelvic thrusted, humped Paulo Costa, and there was a lot of reaction from the MMA community about that. Jason Hartley over at MMAonPoint, a guy that I've done podcasts with, called it legit sexual assault. That's verbatim what he called it. And I countered him on social media about that, and he ended up deleting the tweet. So I'm not going to pinpoint him exactly in this argument, because I saw a lot of other people I tend to respect to some degree be outraged over Izzy's actions. And I just got to say this. First off, Izzy's actions aren't in isolation. You have to think about him in the context of the fight, context of who he's facing. He was facing a significant homophobic bigot in Paulo Costa. Costa is a huge Bolsonaro supporter. Bolsonaro is deeply, deeply anti-LGBTQ. Plus, they've tried to enact laws against the gay community in Brazil. I mean, they have been basically overtly putting out rhetoric that the gay community is subhuman. Okay, so he is facing a deeply homophobic person that thinks an entire class of people are beneath him. Okay. I hope I don't need to rephrase that for it to really sink in people's minds. That is what Paulo Costa's beliefs are. Now, if we put that in juxtaposition with one pelvic thrust towards Costa from a guy that beat up Costa, you know what? I don't give a fuck. Just to be quite honest. Like, I just don't think it's a legitimate issue. I think the legitimate issue would be the guy that thinks an entire class of people are subhuman. Like, that's a real issue. Is he doing a Adrian Broner move in the ring? Is not gonna, it's not legit sexual assault. That's just ridiculous. And two, it's not a real fucking issue. The issue is people thinking that entire classes of other people are subhuman. That's a fucking issue. Just makes no sense to me. That people will get so outraged at Izzy and not have any degree of outrage towards Paulo Costa and his deeply backwards fucking viewpoints, which again have material harm in his own country. Like, we just have to be honest about that. And also, sort of, again, dovetailing from that slightly, I saw a lot of people jump on that and made it an example of Izzy being not a mainstream star sort of potential fighter, that he likes anime too much, that he likes weird cartoons, he's too sexual, he crossed the line. And for those that are saying that, I truly want to understand how you can say that with the context that people like Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather, Mike Tyson, people with legit sexual assault allegations, convictions, even rape allegations and convictions, like actual rape allegations and convictions. Those people are fucking huge cultural icons. Like, honestly. Like, what are you saying? Like, and no sort of material history in sports or entertainment is that ever true. That a guy that, like Izzy, who talks sexual and likes cartoons, automatically can't be a star. Because when you look at all of domestic violence abusers, all of sexual violence offenders in sports entertainment, clearly that is not a prerequisite to be a star. Like, clearly, you don't have to be a spotless fucking saint to be a superstar in our system, in our society. So why does Izzy, a guy that likes cartoons and is like overtly sexual about his own sexuality, why is that an issue? I mean, I know why. I know it's a rhetorical question. I think like most of you in the chat will like kind of read between the lines. Like, it's clearly like confident black man. He's wrong. He can't do that. Conor McGregor, though, he can say and do whatever he wants because, man, he makes us a bunch of money. Right? That's just the reality of it, man. It's just sad. Marcus Bennett. I'm not gonna read that out loud because I think it's just so preposterous that people think that. Because like, if you just look at his stories, he's like was with a girl the entire fight week. Like, he was quarantined with somebody. Never showed her face, but definitely a woman. Maybe a trans woman, but most likely it was a woman. And guess what? Like, it's just not an issue. Going Sherdog. Oh God. The forums, Marcus, or the like an article? Was an article posted by someone on Sherdog that was like, Izzy's gay, or was it the forums? Because Sherdog forums are nasty. That I will definitely agree with. That's just a reality. But then again, like, looking like Amanda Nunes, her comment section, because she just had her child with her partner, was Nina Landsberg. Sorry, apologies on the name. And all the comments are like deeply like homophobic against Amanda Nunes. It's sad, man. It really is. Marcus saying now is the forums. Seems to be the number one reason why people don't like him. I think that's just an excuse. Like, oh, he's too sexual. He's too flamboyant. Like, no, man. Like, dude, look at the outfits that Conor wears. Like, that's not flamboyant. But no, he's a masculine hero. Ugh. White dude, yes. Master race. Like, that's just what it is. Like, it's just obvious that that's kind of the subconscious, at the very least, bias in the majority of these fans. Like, they don't like John Jones because he was, especially when he got a little more flashy, along with maybe his extracurricular activities. But again, there's tons of fighters that they do like, that do that stuff, but they're not flashy. They're not cocky, so it's okay. Anthony Rumble Johnson's not cocky enough. He's not flashy enough as like a personality for white people to really care that he is a like serial domestic violence abuser. You know what I mean? It just how it is. And also, going back to my point, all of this doesn't like automatically exclude people from being stars. Floyd Mayweather was vilified by the white community. Guess what? Still a fucking star. Still made money. Okay, was saying this is a minority. There are way more fans of Izzy than haters. I agree with that. But it's a very vocal minority. We got to put that on the screen. They are probably Covington fans. Come on, they have to be. So good. What else? Pay-per-view buy rate. I have to give a prediction. It seemed like it was trending pretty high, so I'm gonna guess 400,000 plus is what I'm gonna guess at. Yeah, I do wonder. Obviously, with the Charlo pay-per-view numbers when those come out, to juxtapose the two, I'm very curious to see. They were definitely competing that night, obviously. If you guys have any other thoughts about or questions or issues or topics you want me to discuss about anything, by the way, when it comes to combat sports, feel free to ask. I'm going to talk about the Juan Blachowicz versus Dominic Reyes fight, and that's kind of like the only fight I'm going to talk about in this card. So if you guys want me to talk about other stuff, feel free to put it in the chat, and I'll try to get to it. Jan Blachowicz, I'm butchering that name, defeated Dominic Reyes, and he was fantastic. I mean, talk about dominant performance as well. You just beat him up with nice, simple combinations. And honestly, I was really shocked about how technical and fluid he was with these combinations. It was just really impressive for a guy that I remember getting like out wrestled by Alexander Gustafsson years ago. He clearly has improved drastically. And Dominic Reyes went in there with seemingly no game plan and just got beat the fuck up. He got torched up drastically. And I'll be honest, I would be curious to see a John Jones versus Jan Blachowicz fight. Like that would be interesting. It would not be unintriguing. I've always thought John Jones isn't the greatest striker, and he can get beat that way. And to go back to like the Gustafsson fight for Jan, I mean, Jan dominated the striking of that fight. He only got beat up or lost the fight due to getting out grappled. So I'm curious to see like how Jan Blachowicz deals with the grappling of John Jones, how John Jones will react to the striking of Blachowicz. So I'm down for that fight, to be honest. If John Jones wants to come back and sort of get his title back, I'm okay with that. Now, is that the thing I want to see? No. John Jones at heavyweight is still what I want to see. To me, it would make just perfect sense to just have John Jones versus Stipe right now and just get it over with, and the winner fight Francis. Like that's what I would do. But I'm not obviously in the position of control. Now, back to 205. It is going to be interesting to see how this division materializes and develops post John Jones, because we might be in just the post John Jones era where the idea of him coming back down to 205 isn't realistic and is not what's going to happen next at the very least. So how does this division really continue to develop, especially when we have guys like Blachowicz and Thiago Santos be successful in this division? It's weird. I feel like this division is probably the weakest in the sport when it used to be the biggest and like the deepest in the golden division. I just don't know like what the path is. I'm not savvy enough or aware enough of, let's say, the regional scene of prospects at 205 coming up. So I don't know if there's a bunch of young talent that's waiting to get picked up by the UFC or waiting to sort of develop, similar to sort of Reyes or Johnny Walker to a degree, or maybe better degree, right? It's, again, a star-studded division historically, but the worst division in the sport now. I would argue even worse than 125. So, yeah, I'm really curious to see how the UFC handles light heavyweight going forward, because this clearly wasn't the outcome they wanted. I think they wanted Reyes, the younger guy that arguably beat John Jones, right? Like that's a selling point to a degree. Beyond, I don't think there's a guy they can really sell around. So what did they do? God knows. God knows what happens next. 92 Akusin, is Conor done as in UFC champion, real contender? Probably. He's a real contender, but a champion, I don't think he beats Khabib ever. I don't think he goes down to 145 ever again. And 170, he faces Usman. Yeah. I don't see how Conor gets a belt again, unless like Khabib retires and he's done with the sport. I can see that happening. But I think Conor's clearly talented enough that like, he can beat top 10 competition still. Like maybe if I want, I'll go to my ranking and see like lightweight and see what the deal is. But I mean, like he could beat Michael Chandler, right? Like I think he could beat Tony Ferguson. I think those are like crazy matchups that Conor can't win. I think he can absolutely win these matchups. Top lightweights, let's go. Shout out to Tapology. Khabib, I don't think he beats Khabib. Justin Gaethje, I think he could beat Justin Gaethje. I wouldn't pick him though. Poirier in a rematch, I'll probably pick Conor still in a rematch. Tony, yes. Dan Hooker, yes. Charles Oliveira, that might be interesting from a style matchup. I would still pick Conor. And it's like Paul Felder, like Diego Ferreira, Ali Quinta, Beneil Dariush, Islam Makhachev, like Kevin Lee, like I think Conor can absolutely beat these guys. Maybe that's like a weird thing to say right now, but I don't think it's preposterous. Like, think about it, like the third ranked guy, I was like, yeah, he could be him. Like, it's not preposterous. It's not. Champion, though, I think just the very, very top of 170, 155, and 145 are all like pound for pound level guys. Like Kamaru Usman's in the top 10 pound for pound, probably. Volkanovski is right around there. So you're talking about elite level guys that are in the gym constantly, training constantly. Conor isn't. So Conor's not beating those top guys. Can he beat the other guys? Absolutely. Because if he fights Pacquiao, it's over. Oh my god. Look, if Pacquiao fights Conor McGregor in a boxing fight, that's my only comment I'm gonna make about it. Because could it happen? I don't know, man. You throw out enough oil monarch money, you can probably make it. But can Conor do anything in that fight? Fuck no, man. Manny Pacquiao just had a great fight against Keith Thurman. Yeah, Pacquiao's knocking out Conor within 6 rounds. He does it faster than Floyd. Johnny said, I want to see Israel come to boxing. Can you see Israel fighting any boxing stars? No, I cannot. And think about his weight class. He weighs 185 pounds. So he either would have to move down an extra 10 pounds to 175 to face light heavyweights, and that's not a star-studded division. Move up to face cruiserweights, which isn't a star-studded division. No, I don't think Izzy does that at all, to be quite honest. I think it probably devalues him more. Guys at 145 and 155, they will call out boxers because they're around stars to a degree, right? But Izzy's not around any real stars. That's the sad part. So no, I don't see that happening. And at age what now? 32? He's in his almost mid 30s, right? I don't think he decides to switch sports again. I think he did. He had a good kickboxing career, not the greatest, but had a good kickboxing career, and then switched over to MMA, and it's been hugely successful. If we're using the terms I want to see Israel do something, I want to see Israel be the guy to start a fighter union. That would be amazing, to be honest. I think Izzy, in terms of needing a enlightened vanguard to lead a unionization movement within the UFC, you need that. You need some stars to do that to a degree. And Izzy would be awesome. As a guy that was yelling at Dana White after the fight, fuck yeah. I like him. That's for sure. Not a switch, but just an exhibition like Conor versus Pax, writes Johnny. It would have to be someone big, right? It'd have to be a Canelo you're bringing up, which I don't think happens. It would have to be you moving up to heavyweight, potentially, right? Facing an Usyk at 210, right? It's that's kind of maybe what you would do. 200 pounds. It would be weird. It would have to be a very odd pairing for it to work, even in a one-off exhibition. 92, Coop saying Conor had a legendary career. The ride was amazing. No, the ride was good. I mean, Conor is clearly the biggest MMA star of all time. I wouldn't say he's the best of all time in terms of ability and technique and stuff like that, but in terms of raw mainstream appeal, he was clearly the biggest star and the biggest impact in the sport. That's just a reality. Even with his rape allegations, he is still the biggest star in the sport. Just like Mike Tyson is still one of the most recognizable names in boxing with his rape conviction, right? It's just unfortunately how it works sometimes. But no, Conor did have a good career. If you were around and watching live when he was going through UFC 189 when he beat Chad Mendes, when he beat Aldo, and then he beat Eddie Alvarez, that little run right there was transcendental. It just was. There was no other way to put it. I forgot to talk about this. I want to talk about this before we head out of here because again, I'm not going to be on for too long. Israel Adesanya as the heir to Anderson Silva's throne. That's put in the title a little bit, so I wanted to address that. I think it's kind of an obvious thing to state at this point that Israel Adesanya is the heir to Anderson Silva. I mean, from the fighting style to the look to the division he's in, he kind of checks all the boxes off of the heir to Anderson Silva specifically, right? And obviously he fought Anderson Silva, and that was a good little parody of technique. I mean, that was actually a really intriguing fight, and honestly, maybe the last fight that was truly tough for Izzy. The Romero fight was boring, but it wasn't tough. He just threw a bunch of leg kicks and won the fight. The Anderson Silva fight was competitive to a degree that the other fights just were not. So always interesting to go back and watch that. But digressing, he clearly is the heir to Anderson Silva. And also, I know that like Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell are talking about this on their show Morning Combat. Shout out to them. That Izzy is now the second best middleweight ever. And that's not even debatable. His run is Conor-like to a degree, where like the run to this point is pound for pound level, is all-time level. Let's just see if he continues it, right? That's always the question mark. Sustained success usually leads to all-time greatness, not just, one-offs and like little tiny runs. But again, I mean, all times respectively, he is the second best middleweight of all time, and he's not too far away from being the best middleweight of all time. He will do it in less fights than Anderson too. Like he will have less title defenses, and we will already declare him the best middleweight of all time. That will happen. Why? Because his competition level is drastically better. Drastically. Very curious to see like the passing the torch in those moments. Johnny in the chat saying, you think Masvidal Covington will happen? Yes. I think it will happen next too. If I have to guess, to be quite honest, I don't think Covington gets the rematch with Usman, or at least I don't think he should. To be honest, I think you give Leon Edwards the fight, or like Gilbert Burns the fight now with Usman. Let him get some other wins. That's what I would do. So yeah, I think Masvidal Covington would be happening next, and also just be a legit awesome fight. Even though I think both guys' politics are ignorant as fuck, clearly they. So I'm trying to pull something up right here, guys. Sorry. Clearly, it would be a really intriguing fight. Like you have Covington, who's a volume striker, Masvidal, who's a pretty volume striker, but not to the degree of Covington. But the better striker, technique is better, power is better, speed's better, IQ is better, everything's better in that spectrum. Covington's a decent grappler, of course, one of the best in the sport overall. And Masvidal has some of the best counter wrestling in the sport, though it was not effective against Usman. So I am curious to see who wins that one and who would be. Oh fuck, that's not what I want to pull up. Shit, they don't have. That's bullshit. So I'm trying to pull up like greatest middleweights of all time, like just like a aggregate ranking on Tapology. They don't have that. They just have greatest fights. So like greatest heavyweight fights, greatest light heavyweight fights. Fucking stupid. What was I saying? Sorry. Covington, Masvidal. Yeah, I think that's a fight that should be made next. It makes a lot of sense and is obviously quite intriguing. And does set up a next title contender for Kamaru Usman. Yogi DeBear saying, may sound weird, but I think UFC is hurting for star power. Here's the deal. Your statement is half correct, right? Does the UFC have a lot of star power right now, comparative to, let's say, previous years or eras? No, they don't. However, the market is drastically different right now to where even though they don't have a Conor, Ronda Rousey level star consistently fighting all the time, it doesn't matter. Right? Like I've talked about this ad nauseum, but the way the ESPN and UFC deal is structured is that every UFC pay-per-view, they get a golden parachute before any buy is sold, before any ticket is sold. That is roughly around like 300 to 400,000 pay-per-view buys. So they're already making like $20 million, let's say, from ESPN right off the bat just for having an event. So they don't really care if the buys don't do that well like they used to because it's not only on ESPN Plus. They're making 20 million plus every fight card because of just the golden parachute that ESPN gives them. As long as that exists, they won't be hurting for stars. And honestly, the leverage that the employee, I know they're not employees, but the employees have is diminished drastically because they can't say that, hey, we're the ones that are generating all of your money. It's just guaranteed from ESPN right now. They don't care what these events really do. That's why the marketing hasn't really been the greatest, because they don't need to market these events. They could just make money after just making these events, having them on the schedule produces them income, and a lot of income. So, yes, the UFC doesn't have a lot of star power right now. Are they hurting for star power? No. Like that's not going to happen. Just the reality. Dana White just told Conor to fuck off. So that's 92 in the chat. Shout out to Dana White, MVP of 2020. First off, Dana White is like the biggest piece of shit human being ever. Like, not ever. But in terms of like sports, he's up there. Top 10 pound for pound shitty people. He's in that list for sports entertainment. And he's ripping off fighters left and right. He is a figurehead of a deeply restrictive company. So no, Dana White's not the MVP of any year. And again, Dana White is not even a controlling entity of the UFC. He's purely a mouthpiece for Ari Emanuel. Like he's purely a mouthpiece for Endeavor. Like that's all it is. Like I cannot believe that even like 92 Ku, who's a longtime listener, is still like peddling these talking points from Zuffa, like fucking a decade and a half ago that were started. No, like Dana White is nothing. Okay, Dana White is a fucking blowhard, fat corporatist pig. Okay, and he can suck all the dicks. Okay, let's just be honest about it. No, Dana White's not the MVP of anything. Okay, he's a lackey. He's a paid lackey for Endeavor to rip off an entire working base of their company, while that working base is literally getting brain damage for the company. No, Dana White's not the MVP. Sorry, just not reality. You replace Dana White, and guess what? The machine still runs. You think if they didn't have Dana White, that the UFC wouldn't have cards, like wouldn't have pay-per-views, wouldn't have the same matchmakers that aren't Dana White, because Dana White is not the matchmaker? Come on, man. Come on. Who had a better year than Dana White, says Aku? Again, Dana White is not the UFC. Like, I don't know what I need to say for you to understand and contextualize that Dana White is nothing. Okay? He is not the owner of the UFC. He has zero ownership of the UFC. He sold it all. He has zero controlling power of what the UFC does in terms of matchmaking, in terms of what the UFC does in terms of marketing, in terms of structural reform. Like, he is not in charge. And guess what? Even when he had slight ownership of the company, which was like 10%, okay, he still wasn't in control then. It was the Fertittas. At no point has Dana White done anything of note other than get saved by the Fertittas from Whitey Bulger in Boston. Okay? Because he was in trouble with the fucking mob and was going to get killed by Whitey fucking Bulger. Okay? So the Fertittas, who are gangsters in Vegas, got him out of there. Okay? Like, Dana White is nothing. He is literally a dude that rode the coattails of other wealthy gangsters. Like, that's it. No, it's not his baby. It's not his baby. He's not the boss. It's not his way. It's Endeavor's way. And before that, it was the Fertittas' way. It was Zuffa's way. And before that, he wasn't involved with the UFC. It was Sega. It was Flash Entertainment. Okay? People like Art Davies and fuckers like that. It was not Dana. For 7+ years, the UFC had zero connection. Zero with Dana White or the Fertittas. And then 2000, 2001, I forget the year exactly. Sorry if I get the year wrong. But Lorenzo Fertitta was a board member of the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Okay? And when at that time, the owners of the UFC, people like what's his name? Big John McCarthy, they created the unified rules of MMA. They approached the Nevada State Athletic Commission, which obviously was the most powerful commission at the time and still is, and said, hey, we want these unified rules so MMA can be legalized. Okay? Lorenzo Fertitta shot it down. Then guess what? The next week, bought the UFC. And still, as a board member of the NSAC, reviewed the rules again, the unified rules of MMA, and approved them. Gangster fucking shit. And guess what? Dana White was not involved in that. He wasn't. It was not his baby. He didn't drive any ship. He is literally just the mouthpiece. Okay? It would be like saying, what's her name for Trump? Like Sarah Huckabee Sanders or whatever, was the actual person in charge of the administration, not Trump. Like, that's how stupid of an argument that is. That the mouthpiece for a corporation is the actual, like, owner of it, the one in charge of it. How stupid can you be? Honestly. Like, how much dick do you have to suck for Dana White to go, yeah, you know, he's the boss. Yeah, he's in charge. It's his baby. What are you saying? Honestly. Like, explain it to me, how stupid you are to repeat literal talking points. No, you're way off. How am I off? Tell me how I'm off, 92 I am right here. I'm solo dolo. I got nothing to do, okay, to the Joe Biden, Donald Trump debate. Tell me how I'm off. Show me where I'm wrong. Show me how Dana White owns this company at any point. Tell me how this was his baby. Tell me how he was in charge. Tell me. I'm all ears. Because guess what? I actually know this shit. And he's not. Never has been. Never will be. Jesus fucking Christ, man. I'm waiting. I'm going to take a sip of water and wait, maybe have a smoke. But I'm waiting. Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm wrong specifically. Explain how he's the boss. Explain how this is his shit. Fucking idiotic talking points, man. Not going to fly anymore. Not going to fly. Be like fucking jerking off Eddie Hearn or Bob Arum. Like, fuck no. Why? But guess what? At least those guys are in charge of their companies. Dana White's not. Never has been. It's just ridiculous how people want to avoid facts. Just, oh my God. Waiting, 92. Anyone else have any questions for me? Like, anyone else have any topics? Because you just said you own 10%. Oh my fucking God. He was a silent fucking owner, bro. He had no say in the company. You know why? Because he owned 10%. Just like Flash Entertainment owned 15% during Zuffa. They were a silent partner, man. Zuffa, Lorenzo, and Frank Fertitta own the majority, so they can say and do whatever they want with the company. Like, how are you this stupid? Honestly. He was given that ownership by the Fertittas. Okay? Like, Dana White is the exact opposite of pull yourself up by the bootstraps mentality. Motherfucker got saved by gangsters, man, and given a golden parachute so he can fix his teeth and take steroids. Come on, man. I'm waiting for your explanation here, man. Like, is this all you got? That you're just going to repeat what I've already said, that he owned 10% of the company, which means nothing? He was not a controlling partner of the ownership? Like, I'll move off it, though, because, like, you clearly have no actual talking point, because you know that what you're saying is bullshit. You know he was never the boss. You know he never had a controlling entity of this company. Shut the fuck up, dude. Goes to every show he works. Because he's a paid employee. Unlike the UFC fighters. He has to go. He's an employee. Like, how fucking stupid are you? Do you show up to work every day or are you fired? Of course, motherfucker. Like, of course. Like, like the PR people go to every show that he works. Do you think the PR people own the company? No. Just because he goes to a show that he works at doesn't mean he owns the fucking company. Doesn't mean he has any controlling entity of the company. I'm moving on 92 because you're actually not rebutting anything right now, to be honest. Like you're repeating that what I've already said, that he owned 10% of the company, which is a massive minority of the company. He had no actual controlling power within the ownership. Just like Flash Entertainment, which owned 15%. Okay. This is all like public information with the buyout of Endeavor that he sold his ownership, but that his ownership was just a golden parachute. That's all it was. The way for him to generate money. And again, he didn't buy the UFC. Lorenzo and Frank Fertitta, people that owned casinos in Vegas, they bought the UFC, not him. Oh, now you're saying, of course. Anna Marie Rivera's making a point. Yeah, I mean, he was the figurehead. People saw him at press conferences all the time. People thought he was the owner, for fuck's sake. People, you know how long it took for like the majority of MMA fans to even like realize about the Fertitta brothers? Like, honestly. Oh, hold on. I think my dogs want to go outside. Can you guys give me like 2 seconds? I'll be right back. And then I'll talk about AOBZ's question. Next week, fights for Charlo. And Liam Russell's a question about how long until Chimaev gets a big fight. And he said Woodley next. Oh, please, man. How rude of you, man. Do you just hate Woodley? To get destroyed. All right, hold on. I'm going to deal with my dogs right now. Be right back. All right, I'm back. Sorry, guys. Sorry. There's the last point I'm going to make about this because 92 saying this and this bugs me. But you're being disingenuous saying Dana White had nothing with the UFC to do to get here. Dude, like, he didn't buy the company. His buddies bought the company and then got him to escape from Whitey Bulger in Boston and then gave him a job. Is it nepotism? It might not be purely nepotism because nepotism is just what family, right? It's within the family. But it's like to a degree, like nepotism. No, he never owned the company. He never had any controlling say in the company. That's not being disingenuous. That's just factual. 92 was saying no one said he bought the company. Dude, you said he was the boss. You said it was his baby. How can it be his baby when he didn't start it and he's never owned it? Like, think about that. Think about how ridiculous that statement is to say. It's his baby. Dude, the company lasted for near a decade before the Fertittas were ever involved. It's not their baby either. Okay? And it's also not Dana's after the fact because he didn't own it. The Fertittas did. No, he said that on Tough. Said what on Tough? Anyways, moving on. AOBZ saying next 3 fights for Big Charlo. Ooh. If I'm being realistic, next one's probably Chris Eubank Jr., which sucks and it's probably a wash to be honest. But after that, I mean, I'm hoping for a Triple G fight. I'm hoping for an Andrade fight. I'm hoping for those fights to be honestly made. If I have to be maybe a little more realistic, maybe like William Monroe comes back into the mix slightly. But hopefully not. Hopefully, like the one bad fight we get in that next 3 fights is just Chris Eubank Jr., which they've told us is going to happen for some time. What else? Who had a point? It was Liam Roscoe. How long until Chimaev gets a big fight? Woodley next. Let's look at the rankings for 170. Let me see. I'm not using the UFC rankings. That's probably a problem though, because they go off the rankings a lot more than let's say like universal rankings. But Usman, Covington, Gilbert Burns, Masvidal, Leon Edwards, Stephen Thompson, Woodley, Vicente Luque, Damian Maia, Michael Chiesa, Neil Magny, Jeff Neal, Santiago Ponzinibbio, RDA, Nate Diaz. That's the top 15 at Tapology. For Chimaev, I mean, he's probably close to like those types of fights, to be honest. Like maybe like if you want like a softer touch, maybe like a Gunnar Nelson type, or like Zalitsky, like Elias Zalitsky, right? That guy. Maybe like a Douglas Lima fight. If you get him over somehow, that'd be great. You got Michael Chandler, get Douglas Lima. That's what I want. Ponzinibbio would be a good fight, but I don't know what's happening with him. Jeff Neal would be a good one too. Neil Magny, I know he called him out. Michael Chiesa. I'd probably go for someone of like the names I just mentioned right there. Woodley should be retired, in my opinion. Like I don't think Woodley should hang around. Why is my dog barking? Can you guys hear that? My dog barking? If you can, I'm gonna go tell her shut up. If not, I can just avoid it. Hold on, let me deal with it. That pissed me off. Goddamn dogs. Sorry, guys. I don't know what that point is, but anyways, let me think. What do we have here? If I had to pick, Neil Magny would be a good fight. I would love a Neil Magny Chimaev fight. That'd make a lot of sense to me. Any other questions we have here? No, I think that's it, guys. We'll just remind everyone one last time before we head out of here that I will be live later today with Foogatti, breaking down the Trump-Biden debates live. So if you guys want to watch the debates, watch it with us. We're going to have a drink in hand, commenting on it, correcting all the lies being spewed in the debate, and also say how both guys are fucking idiots and how much of a clusterfuck this election's been. Should be fun, guys. But like I said, join us at 6 p.m.-ish Pacific Standard Time. I think we will be live about maybe 10 minutes before the debate. Again, Trending Now Network on YouTube, a General Strike podcast on YouTube, so you can find us. Also, if you go to our homepage at Mixed Combat Radio, you see this video at the very top. So go there. If you can't find it, what else? What other thoughts? Documentary episode coming out this week. That should be fun. Breaking down the English Revolution, the American Revolution, French Revolution, and the Haitian Revolution. And sort of the foundations of modern socialist thinking. A lot of fun there. What else is coming up? That's about it, I think. Me and Gary and Rob should be back on soon. Maybe like a Wednesday or Thursday show. So either tomorrow or the next day, depending on when we have the most news. And find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, all social media platforms. Join us later tonight for the presidential debates. Go check out also that channel. There's a ton of good substantive content on politics and history and such that I think all of you guys should watch and listen to. I feel like there's something that I'm forgetting about. Anyways, like I said, find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, social media. Links down below in the description. Have a great day, great evening, great night if we do not see you later today on Trending Now. And see you soon. Peace.